Hey everyone, welcome back to Studio Z. So in today's video, we're going to be revisiting photo carving, but we're not going to go into any landscape photos this time around. Instead, we're going to focus on portraits, and not just any portraits, but animal portraits. That's right, for all you dog lovers out there, today I'm going to try to reproduce 4 images or 4 pictures of my favorite dog, Gracie. All right, so first, we'll head into Vectric and I will show you guys how I manipulate the photo to get the best image possible to reproduce the best carving that I can. We'll also go into the different settings in Vectric to get the best carving that we can. From there, we'll go on to the machine, carve it, and then the most important part, we'll get into the finishing of the photo where I paint it and sand it to reveal that actual carving and the intricacies necessary to get it to come out perfect. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into it.
Okay everyone, so I'm here in Vectric. I happen to use Vectric Aspire, and this is my job setup. The project will be single-sided. The width of my board is going to be 18 inches wide by 12 inches high or long, and it'll be 3/4 of an inch thick. The Z0 position will be material surface, and my XY datum position will be in the front left corner. All right, so all of that looks good. I'll click OK. And here you see I have my board set up. So from here, I need to import the photo that I want to put on there. So we come up here under File Operations, and you'll see Import a bitmap or vectors. Click on that, go to where your file is stored. So for me, it's in screenshots, and I'm gonna start in order. So I'll go with, actually, you know what, I'm gonna go with this one first, and we'll open that up, and it brings it right up onto our board here. So now you can see that the perimeter is highlighted, so the image is highlighted. And what I want to talk about, which is really important for this project, is the type of photo that you use, and let's say how you enhance it. That's going to bring out the best qualities and produce the best image. They have told me that the best image to use to reproduce is a black and white image. So I decided to try two black and white and 2 in color, and see the difference between those and how they come out. So what I do want to point out is that in this photograph we have light areas around here in the dog, and up here in the tree it gets a little dark, and in the leaves as well. So these dark areas are going to be the areas that are not going to come out very detailed. And the reason for that is because there's really no difference in the image between these 2 areas. They all kind of look the same. So when you go to carve it, you're really not going to pick up a lot of that detail. So how do we change that, or how do we improve that? And the way to do that is to go over here to the photo or picture editor, and we'll open that up. And what that allows us to do once it opens is that we can play around with the brightness, the contrast, and the gamma in the photo to try to change those areas to make them pop a little more and get a little more separation or contrast between them. And that is the trick to getting the image to carve well and to be able to see it. Otherwise it'll just look blurred out, modeled, and you're not really going to be able to make out what the image is in that area. So for this one, I'm just going to show you how it changes the image here. So I've clicked on the contrast, and by just going down there I can lower the contrast, and you see it gets very cloudy and very white. Not really good. You don't want to do that. So I'm going to try going the other way here, and you can see by enhancing the contrast, increasing it a little bit, these areas in the tree begin to get a little darker. There's a little more separation in them, and overall the picture just looks a little crisper. So I'm going to try this setting for this image and try to see how well it gets carved by doing that. You can also play around with the brightness, which I will show you here now. So I click on brightness and we can increase it there. And you'll see the light areas just get brighter, and even these dark areas in the tree as well get much lighter. So that's something to possibly try there, to play around with the brightness. And then there's the gamma as well. So the gamma is basically a combination of the two. So by lowering it, you can see you can get really, really dark, which is not good. And you can get really, really bright as well. Again, also not good. There's too much white in that photograph there to try and carve that. So I'm going to try coming down. Seems like just about where it was is pretty good. I'm not gonna touch the gamma that much. I kind of like it just the way that it was. Just checking. Yeah, I kind of like it right where it was. So I'm gonna leave that photo right there. I'll click apply and wait for it to. Okay, so there it is. And now that the border is still highlighted, the image is still selected, and that's what we want to go to the next step. So once you're satisfied with how you've modified the picture, then we can go over to creating the toolpath. So we'll switch over now to the toolpaths, and we'll go to our material setup first. And the thickness is 3/4 of an inch. Again, same thing, XY datum, material surface. All of this stuff is good. We're not going to touch any of that, so we're great there. Again, our image is selected there. As you can see, the purple border going around the edge. So from here, we're going to go to Photo V-Carve. And this is a feature that's available on both, I have Aspire, and I believe it's in V-Carve, V-Carve Pro. It depends on your subscription, whether or not you have this toolpath. It's obviously critical. This is the only way to carve this. I'm going to click on that, and here it brings up our cutting depths. So this is the most important part, and basically, your start depth is just the surface of the wood, and then how deep you want the image carved. And this variable right here, the max carving depth, is what will give you the, let's say, the best looking image, and it won't look too, I don't know, I guess in the last video I used the word like a corduroy pants. It's going to be striped. You're going to have diagonal lines going across. The deeper you go, the more lines you're going to see. You're really going to see them, and the image is not going to be smooth. It's going to be kind of really choppy. And through testing, I have found that a max carving depth of 40 thousandths, 0.04, happens to yield the best looking image when trying to do this. So I'm going to leave it at 0.04, and my step over retract is just 120 thou, so that when it pulls up over the image, we have a good safety zone there. And the bit that we're going to be using for this is going to be, and I will show you, I've already selected, it's a 60-degree V-bit. What I'm using here is a 1/4 inch shaft. It's a 60-degree V-bit. It has 3 flutes. The last time I did this photo carving, I used a 2-flute 60-degree V-bit. So I'm actually quite interested to see if there's, there should be a greater cut quality in this one. So I'm looking forward to that. My cutting parameters, I have a pass depth, I just exceeded. None of this stuff matters. Only that you should be greater than what you have setting up here in your cutting depths. The program, the toolpath, will control everything as far as the depth and how close together those lines are. So all of this doesn't matter as far as the cutting parameters, but your feeds and speeds will matter. I'm going to be turning this at 18,000 RPM at 150 inches a minute and a plunge rate of 70 inches a minute. So that should be good to speed this process along a little bit. All right, so now that we've got that set, we're going to be doing it, I'm going to be cutting it in a roster pattern, and that is this diagonal line pattern here. My line spacing, I like to keep it at dense so that you get a more, let's say, a more complete image. So if you set it to sparse, it's going to be a very choppy looking image and very coarse. I don't like that. I like mine set at dense and try to get the best image quality that I can. I also cut it, the line angle, on a 45-degree angle. I find that just looks the best and it's the least intrusive on the image, so to speak. So I leave that at 45 degrees. All right, so that's all good. We'll click calculate. All right, so now let's check out, we'll run the preview and see how it looks. Okay, so now it's best to also move it around a little bit. You can really see how it's going to look. And that looks, pretty good. Again, this is just a rendering. It's going to look different when you actually try to do it. So on the actual material. And I'm focusing primarily on the areas around the dog. So around here, the edges of her body, to make sure it pops out. This area in the tree, because I know it's a dark area. The rest of it looks pretty good, so I'm not too concerned about that. So I think that particular one is pretty good. So I'm going to leave that as is. All right, so now I'm going to head back over here to the design. I'm going to, as this one's highlighted again, I'm going to delete that one. All right, so now we'll open the last one. Right, that's a great shot. Let's see, I don't know that, again, I need to do too much with this photo. I do like the contrast in it. I think it looks pretty good. So I think I'd like to try to leave it the way that it is and just go from there. And if anything, like I said, we can learn as to, what works, what doesn't work. So let's see how this renders. Let me reset the preview. Oh yeah, that one looks pretty good. All right. I think that one was going to work. So I've got my photos. I'll close this out. So from here, I will just save these toolpaths to my files, and then I will bring it over to the machine, and I will see you guys over at the machine. Okay, everyone, so I'm over at the machine, and I figured it'd be a good time to show you some of the router bits that are offered by today's sponsor. If you head over to thihuex.com, you'll find a huge assortment of router bits. These are just a very small sample, and as you can tell, they have V-bits, engraving bits, tapered ball end mills, roughing end mills. They have almost anything you can pretty much imagine. The cut quality on these bits is fantastic. And also the grind on the bits themselves is really sharp. It's fantastic. I've never seen anything like it at this price point. And so today I'm going to be using the 60-degree V-bit to do the photo carving. So I'm really excited to see how that comes out. So if you guys are interested and you want some really good bits at an affordable price, head over to thihuex.com, and I'll leave a 10% promo code in the description. Use that code, you'll get a discount. And all right, so now let me show you the setup and we'll get started carving. Okay everyone, so I just wanted to go over my setup on the machine before I start carving. This is very important. So this is what I have set up for my base, let's say, to mount
my board onto. And because I raised my machine 3 inches, I can't get really low to the surface of the table without putting a spacer on it or using a collet extender. And so I chose to go with the spacer on this one. I've got an 1.5 inch buildup on the bottom here. And the most important part is to make sure that you've surfaced everything perfectly to your table. And you want to make sure the spoil board is surfaced and absolutely flat to your machine, and that whatever you put on it, like these spacers, are also have been surfaced so that they match. Everything has to match. Reason being, the photo carving, the little grooves that you cut, the depths of those grooves are so minute that if your table is off or your board is off by, you know, even 5/1000ths of an inch, the depth of that cut is not going to be true or accurate, and the carving will not come out correct. It's going to look weird, okay? So that's why I'm stressing this. It's very important to make sure that you do this step. I'm also using a system where the maple board that I'm going to be carving on has the same kind of groove cut into it like this, so that I can grab it from the side with these clamps, so that the surface is unobstructed and I can cut the entire surface without, you know, hitting a clamp or anything like that. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that that's clear. This is very, very important step. All right, let's get to carving. Okay, so I've taken the carvings off the machine, and the next step is to use a nylon brush as such. This is a 400 grit nylon brush, and to go in the same direction as the grooves are cut, like such, to remove all of the fuzzy hairs, you know, from the carvings that's still in the grooves. All of that fuzz has to be removed before we seal it. Sealing it will be the next step after this, and you have to remove all of this stuff to be able to seal it. So let me zoom in. I just want to show you, sorry for the weird camera angle, it's the only way to capture the image, so I just wanted to be able to show you that. But as you can tell, there you can see just how fuzzy those grooves are. All right, so I'm gonna go over this now, and then I'll show you again what it looks like after I've nylon brushed it, and then you can see the before and after. going, so I'm all set to start spraying the sealer on the board, and I just wanted to go over what I use as my sealer. So I use Zinsser Seal Coat. It's a universal sanding sealer. As you can see, it's 100% wax-free shellac, and it is what they mean by universal is that it'll stick to anything and anything will stick to it. So it's a great product. It's a little expensive, but it's very good. And as you can see, I also have there is my little sprayer. I get this from preval.com, and you can just fill it, the little bottle at the bottom, and you can spray anything out of it. It's just a handy, aerosol sprayer. So, all right, now that you've seen what I use, I will spray 2 coats of the sealer. I like to go in both directions to make sure that I get down into the grooves and I don't miss any spots. Very important to seal it. All right, so that's how you seal it. I will let that dry for about an hour or so, and then I will do nothing to it and just spray the black lacquer right on top of it. All right, so I'll see you guys in about an hour. Well, 2 seconds for you. All right, so it's been an hour and the sealer is completely dry, and it is now time to spray the black lacquer. I'm going to spray 2 coats on the surface, and I'm just using regular Krylon black lacquer, nothing special. And in case you were wondering, the reason that we had to seal it is so that when I go to spray the black lacquer, on all these areas here that are going to be really light, whitish areas, let's call them, you don't want the black going into those and permeating them and contaminating them, so to speak. So we spray the entire surface with the sealer, and that keeps the black only where we want it, which is in the pits, those deep cuts and so on and so forth. Because after the black lacquer dries, I'm going to sand everything off and reveal the photo. So all of these white areas will remain, well, let's call it white, and the black will remain in the pitted areas. So that is the reason for the sealer. It's very important. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and spray 2 coats of the black lacquer, again going in both directions. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for about 15-20 minutes, and I will come back and spray it one more time. All right, so the moment has arrived to finally reveal what this is going to look like. And I let it dry overnight so that the lacquer is really dry and it's not gummy or soft. You want it really, really dry so it's crisp. It'll cut better that way. And I use a random orbital sander. We call these a DA. I like to use this better or more than a, let's say like an electric, orbital, because this is actually not very aggressive, and you can control how quickly you start cutting into the material. If you use a sander that's too aggressive, you will possibly pass the point where you need to stop and you won't know it, and you'll sand too much. Whereas with this, it cuts much slower and you'll have a good chance of getting to the right point and not passing it. All right, so I'm trying out, I have an old piece of 100 grit on here. It might not be enough to get started because lacquer is very strong, it's very, very hard, durable. So I'll try it out, see what happens. I may switch to an 80 grit just to get the lacquer off quickly, and then switch to a finer grit. I probably won't go higher than 150 on the entire thing. So just so that you know that. All right. Yeah, and there's one of them. That came out really good. Wow, I'm impressed at the detail that you can see even in the tree. That was the part I was most worried about. So pretty cool. You can even see the stop sign in the back. There's a little stop sign on the street here. The detail is incredible. Very cool. All right, on to the next one. Well, that's a success, I would call it. That looks pretty cool. Wow. I'm really impressed at how well it represents the photo. I'm amazed. That's pretty darn cool. I've never done a portfolio. Like I said, this is the first time around, and very impressed. Pretty cool. Wow. Yeah, that one even came out pretty good also. Wow. I'm pretty impressed that you can see the grass. There's a small rock that is in the ground behind her here, and this is all grass. That came out pretty good. All right, on to the next one. Pretty cool. Yeah, unfortunately this board had a little bit of sapwood. That's what you're seeing here. And I use that to show you also as an example, you know, that you got to be really careful the wood that you pick, because it will affect the picture. As you can see that, you know, you try to find the whitest wood that you can, and it gives you the best background. All right. Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you guys learned a little more this time around to improve upon the photo carving. I noticed a difference between the black and white photo, starting with a black and white photo versus using a color one. And also really impressed with the new, Thai-Hue X bits. They really turned out great. Great carving. They're really sharp. So you can see the cut quality was fantastic on these. I'm really impressed by them. And also the settings in Vectric. So the settings for the photo carving are really important. Messing around with the contrast, the brightness, all of that stuff, even the gamma will vastly improve how the pictures come out, especially getting in the dark details of certain photos. You can really bring them out and make a great photo out of it. So if you guys learned something from this one, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe button, leave a comment. I usually get back to everyone, any questions you might have. And with that, I will see you guys on the next one.